Do you want your business to grow? Do you want the access to global network? Gain the business and investment opportunities. Build lasting business friendships and strategic partnerships. Become a member of CEO Club's network and prepare your business for an amazing change. CEO Club's network is the most effective business platform for CEOs and decision makers to share experiences, explore opportunities, and grow business connections locally and internationally. What do we do for our members? We organize monthly business events with a strong focus on networking. Get exposures and recognitions as we serve members with a wide range of benefits. Members can take part in industry-specific panel discussions, roundtables, lunch meetings, breakfast meetings, awards nights, gala dinners, and other informal gatherings, like cigar nights or high teas. Through our unique CEO Club's mobile app, we help our members to connect with powerful business figures, community leaders, and government officials in selected countries worldwide. So, if you are looking for a multicultural atmosphere, strong networking platform, and millions of B2B connections, CEO Club's network is the right place for you. Powerful global brand and network for decades. More than 50 awards received globally. The knowledge with experience makes the difference. Join CEO Clubs and be part of the whole new world of prestige and pride. Give us a call or visit our website and get connected with a unique world of business opportunities.
A panel discussion topic with investment outlook during and post-pandemic with officials from 5 countries, Turkey, Malaysia, China, Pakistan, and UAE. The CEO Club has been conducting a series of webinars in helping CEOs and business leaders all over the world to overcome challenges, lead efficiency, and create opportunities during these difficult times. The COVID-19 represents unprecedented disruption to the global economy and world trade and investment. One of the most effective means of addressing this crisis is through timely and accurate information and making changes. Today in our webinar, we will be discussing bringing together 5 government officials and investment authorities from different countries. We may discuss the stimulus plan and measures from different countries, resilience in different country economy to adopt new norms, and feasibility of relocating businesses and different things. As we all know, the governments and business leaders have a crucial role to play in helping the world get through this current crisis. Today, we will hear from our influential leaders, from officials from different countries on their strategies that drive action on how to lead the economy moving. Today's webinar, our panelists are, let me just mention their name and titles. We have from Turkey, Mr. Rahim Al-Barak. He's the country advisor of Presidency Investment Office of Republic of Turkey. We have from Malaysia, Mr. Sheikh Shamsul Ibrahim. He's the Director of Foreign Investment Promotion Division of Malaysian Investment Development Authority, MIDA. We have from Pakistan, Mr. Hassan Daud Butt. He's the CEO of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Professional Board of Investment and Trade Authority. We have from UAE, Mr. Rami Jalad. He's the Group CEO of Ras Al Khaimah Economic Zone, RAKEZ. And we having an issue because from China, Mr. Hong Yongding, that Director of Shanghai Office and Council for Promoting South Cooperation, China Ministry of Foreign Affairs, supposed to join us, but he's been called for urgent meeting from his ministry, so he may not, but he may join us later today. So before I start the panel discussion, I like to request each panelist to please introduce and about you and about the organization and the country that you're representing. So if I can start with Mr. Rahim Al-Barak, who is the country advisor of Presidency Investment Office of Republic of Turkey. Kindly to you.
Thanks so much, Dr. Tariq. My name is Rahim Al-Barak. I am working in investment office during the last 4 years. Actually, I am responsible from the United Arab Emirates, from Kuwait, and from Bahrain. Investment office directly reporting to President Office. And like other investment offices, we are promoting investments in Turkey, and we are guiding the investors who is willing to make investments in Turkey market. Our main mandate is FDI, foreign direct investments, attracting foreign direct investments to Turkey. This is my role in that position. I am based in Dubai. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Can I request from Malaysia, Mr. Sheikh Shamsul Ibrahim? He's the Director of Foreign Investment Promotion Division of Malaysian Investment Development Authority, MIDA. Can you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Dr. Tariq, for the kind introduction. I'm working for MIDA. MIDA is basically short name to Malaysian Investment Development Authority. We are the government principal attracting foreign and also domestic investment in the manufacturing and services sector in Malaysia. Okay? For foreign direct investment, we have 20 offices. We have 6 in Europe, 3 America, North America, as well as rest in Asia Pacific. 1 in United Arab Emirates, which is in Dubai. The role is basically, as I mentioned earlier, to provide foreign with Asia factors. Of course, this COVID-19, we've been affected the way that many of those companies are, having the attitude of see, for them to conclude their investment. So that is from me. Right.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now from Pakistan, Mr. Hassan Daud Butt. He's the CEO of KP-Pakhtunkhwa Professional Board of Investment and Trade. Can I request you to kindly introduce your board?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Hassan Daud, and I am the CEO of KP-Pakhtunkhwa Province Board of Investment. Prior to this, I was the project director for the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and I've just moved here last year in September. In our Board of Investment, we are responsible as an investment attraction agency or authority, like any other, say, investment attracting authority. To attract investment, FDI flow, we're looking at the possibility of improving trades with our neighbors and our partners. So we're like a catalyst for that process. So overall, we are also responsible as the Special Economic Zone Authority within our province, and from us, all the investment-related activities, Special Economic Zone-related activities, and trade and commerce-related activity flow, and we have a close, coordination with the federal government in this. Just repeat that being part of the provincial investment board, we are responsible for all trade and commerce activity, for all the special economic zone related regulatory part of it. We work closely with the federal government in terms of how to take right kind of measures which can create the pull factor for the investment and FDI to flow not just to Pakistan but specifically for Khyber-Pakhtunkhwa province. Briefly on the COVID part, I was also part of the government's committee on the industries, meaning that which sort of industry should be open initially, keeping in view the standard operating procedures of the COVID-19. And so that the economic activity could remain, the agriculture activity could also remain. So it's a good place to be at this time, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to request from UAE, Mr. Rami Jalad. He's a Group CEO of Ras Al Khaimah Economic Zone, Rakesh. Over to you, Mr. Rami.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me on this CEO Club's exclusive webinar. My name is Rami Jalad. I'm the Group CEO for the economic zones in Ras Al Khaimah, Arrakis. My role is obviously very similar to the colleagues on the panel, is to drive FDI and investment into the Emirate of Ras Al Khaimah, and we collaborate with all the government entities across the UAE to ensure that Ras Al Khaimah's ecosystem is the right ecosystem for investors, all the way from startups, SMEs, and many industrial companies are located here in our economic zones. We work closely with the government entities on the mainland, in the free zone. So we're very unique in Ras Al Khaimah, where really everything's put together under one umbrella. That way we are able to have the right regulations, the transparency, the ease of doing business is obviously very important for us as well. Today we have over 15,000 companies in our one of our economic zones, from SMEs, startups, and industrial companies. So my role is to drive one of the economic wheels of this emirate, and also we are very the world is changing, and we follow the guidelines and the regulations that are available in all of the UAE, because we see the UAE as one ecosystem. We are an emirate in the UAE, but we are also one ecosystem, as the United Arab Emirates has really all the positive aspects for investment when you look at it.
Okay, thank you very much. And now, lastly, as from China, we were expecting soon Mr. Hong. He's the director of Shanghai Office of Council for Promotion South Cooperation and Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He's been called for some urgent meeting, and hope he can join us later today. But thank you very much for everyone for introducing themselves. Let me share that before I ask questions and start the panel discussion, I will request all the participants that if you have any question with the panelists, please write in your chat box. We will be having a Q&A session at the end of it, so I will recommend that as many questions you like on any subject or investment or economy or businesses, especially in these countries where we have the panelists from, please do write your question. We're looking forward for that. So I like to ask the first question, which each question, if you know that I will be asking each one of you the same question. So I will first request from Mr. Daud, from Pakistan, to answer this first question. The question that I have for him, that what are the measures taken so far from your authority or your country on the current economy conditions?
Yeah, naturally, like any other country. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So, like any other country or any other provincial entity, we were hit in the same manner as perhaps anyone on this planet is. We were able to, address this issue in a way that we looked into the possibility of what sort of industry should remain open, what sort of economic activity should remain open, so that the economy should continue to at least have the trickle effect or the sprinkling effect that could, put not just burden on the federal government, but also on provincial governments as such. So with this in mind, we were able to set up a task force, and the initial industries that we looked at were naturally the pharma industry and also the industry related to the food and agriculture or agri-based industry. And we were lucky enough that, the impact initially when it all started in Pakistan, perhaps the date that it all started here, the first case was reported around 15th of March, and following 23rd of March, we were able to impose certain restriction on the movement and also on the overall governance structure. There were initially some resistance, naturally, as expected, but later people understood the importance of following the standard operating procedures, following the instructions that were being given by the federal government, by provincial government. And also the good part is that the initial, no good part actually, but I mean the satisfying, COVID struck the urban centers. So it was our harvesting season in our rural economy. So the rural economy was not disturbed as much as perhaps we were expecting. And the supply chain for food and pharmaceutical continued. And then gradually from there, we looked at our pillar industries, which industry would be open. And from there, we looked at our export-led industry, because although certain export orders were being cancelled, but there was still some niche within our own export sector, and those industries were given, approval to start their production and then export. Similarly, there were certain restrictions on our border crossings, especially with Afghanistan, when we speak of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And then later we worked on the SOPs and eventually those border crossings were open, especially for the Afghan transit trade and also for food and agriculture products. So all in all, this was the entire process was carefully articulated. We still are in a process of looking at how best to work on in a scenario where, like for instance, our Eid al-Azha is approaching fast. So we want to look at our economic conditions there, and because this also is an economic activity. The earlier Eid was also impacted. So. And also, the very fine definition coined by WHO between life and livelihood. We're creating the right kind of balance there, and also looking at both at different segments of the society and how to continue with the economic activity. I would just like to end my answer to your question is that naturally the FDI part and the investment part was impacted. But we did our own huddle and decided that we would utilize this time in revising our policies, looking at our incentive package vis-a-vis our competitors, and then work on the ease of doing business part. And I'm happy to report that we were able to utilize this 3 months in the best of manner. Now our ease of doing business processes are better regulated. We have done a lot of deregulation in terms of, and also mapping of all the NOCs, the processes that are involved, the taxes that are taken. And we just had a meeting last week about how best we will perform in the next following 3-4 months, where the impact would still continue. And Khyber Pakhtunkhwa was able to, give a good standard for others to emulate in terms of deregulation and mapping. For our SEZs, we are still following some of the best case, like Ras Al Khaimah perhaps, and we're trying to build our SEZs on the most useful and easeful form of the entire process. Our economic zone are being looked at as a center of excellence for economic growth. We are looking at them as an in-spot way of progress and economic growth, like perhaps China did. And we are working closely with our partners in China. So all in all, the situation is tough, but it is giving us lot of time to work on good things, perhaps. But I'm not too sure. But I'm not too sure what the new normal would be.
Uh-huh. I see. I see. Okay. I know your province is it's like a main door of China. You know the CPAC. You know because your province exists on you have 2-3 country borders and I think China the whole CPAC the corridor is going through your province. I think entering into the China province. I mean China province. You know. So thank you very much. You know. So I will like to ask the same question to Mr. Rahim that what are the measures taken so far from your authority or your country on the current economy conditions? Please, Mr. Rahim.
Thanks so much, Dr. Tarek. Actually, together with that crisis happened, arise in Turkey in mid of March. We understand the role of the government, the importance of the government. We understand with that crisis, and also the transparency of the government. We understand it together with that crisis, and also whatever measurement what we are taking, it should be immediate effect because the companies and individuals affected so badly from that crisis. We know as a government we take the priority, of course, health of the people, but from other side, opening of the economy, working of the economy is another important factor, and you cannot close your economy because people should believe. Taking into account to that one, Turkish government takes some of the measurements for preventing of closing of the economy. And I can say to you that we have announced immediately in March we immediately announced the promotion package, and also for stimulus plan it's around $30 billion immediately we announced. And then this package is including credit supports, labor supports, and also tax relief also is including all of them. From the credit support perspective, firstly we postponed the companies loans for 3 months immediately, and we give also to government banks also orders to them to postponing such kind of loans. And the other thing, there's a credit SME sector is so much important in those times, especially for the countries economies like Turkey. We doubled increased the credit guarantee fund in Turkey. It was $4 billion budget. We increased the $8 billion budget, and we give the loans to SMEs, and around 200,000 SMEs get benefit from that one. And from other side, is credit score so much important because there are some unpaid loans, there are some issues, there are some bond shakes like that. We give to the right to the companies to write to their credit scores force majeure for helping to them. This is another side. And also for the individuals, it is another important part of the economy. Individuals, we postponed the credit cards payments for 3 months, and it will be continue like that. From the labor side, it is another important side. First, we made a flexible and remote working legislation. We did to that one. Secondly, we gave to the minimum wage support to the people, to the especially for people minimum wage support, and also for the families who is not having, for example, the revenues. Around 4 million families, Turkish government started making monthly payments around $200, $250 like that. During the last 4 months, we are paying the families. The other thing for the companies who is not, for example, who is not ability to support their staff, Turkish government gave the support 50% salary support, short-term salary allowance to the companies, and during the last 3-4 months it is continue. From the tax perspective, and you know, there was a tax and VAT discounts. We started for VAT discounts, social premium payments we extend to that one, and for the tax declaration we extend to that one. From the central bank perspective, central bank lowered the interest rates, and monetary policies expanded, and also from the fiscal policy side is expanded. We did to that one. From the BRSA policies, banking regulatory authority side, there was a non-performing loan time is 90 days. It was that one. We increased to 180 days. We took such kind of measurements for helping the economy and for opening the economy. Turkey, I think, is a succeed to that one. Because of that one, in the first quarter of our economy, Turkish growth around 4.5%, and towards the end of the year, we are expecting 0.5% growth. Although in the world, it is expected -3 growth, but Turkey is on the way and succeeding from one side to helping to the people and caring account to the health of the people, from other side, opening of the economy. Thank you.
I see. Thank you very much, Mr. Rahim. You know, I know Turkey have a lot of initiative they have taken, and there are a lot of steps, and I think it's becoming a very hub of different countries' economies. Now, I'd like to ask the same question from Malaysia, Mr. Ibrahim, that what are the measures taken so far from your authority or your country on the current economic conditions, Mr. Sheikh Ibrahim? Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tariq. So, when this COVID-19 struck our country, basically on 18th of March, the government announced this Movement Control Order, or MCO, right? And then because of the MCO, the economy is practically closed, yeah, except for some of the companies that are making essential products. Okay. And the government also introduced this six-phase approach, what we term as resolve, resilience, restart, recover, revitalize, and reform, or in short, 6R. Right? This is to address the impact of COVID-19. So, as I mentioned earlier, the resolve stage is basically to contain COVID-19, yeah? To flatten out the curve of what we call COVID-19 pandemic. And then resilient, where during that stage we announced this economic stimulus package. In short, it is called Prihatin, whereby the government introduced this stimulus package to protect the people and support businesses in Malaysia. The stimulus package, I think it is worth or it is cost us about 58 billion, yeah, including the SMEs in Malaysia, where they are heavily impacted, and also foreign companies. Some of the support that are given is to the employees, whereby the employer can be given subsidies if they employ our local people, and there are certain amount of threshold of salary that they can be considered for these subsidies of salary. And then after that, we move to the other stage or phase, what we call as restart. This is where most of the businesses are allowed, to operate. If I earlier that I mentioned that during the resolve, the phase 1 and phase 2 of MCO, only those companies that are providing essential goods and services can be allowed to operate. But during the restart, what we call phase, we allow the government allows almost, I think, 85% to 90% of the business establishments to open their businesses. Yeah. And we move to the next phase, what we term as recovery phase. This is where in early June, I think if I'm mistaken, on 6th of June, the government announced these short-term economic measures. These short-term economic measures, what we term as Penjana, this is worth 35 billion ringgit, or $8 billion US. Yeah? Basically to empower people, to propel businesses and stimulate the economy, and also aim at helping businesses to recover from the impact of COVID-19. So in all these phases, the other two phases are revitalize and reform. Revitalize is more on the mid-term economic measures, and also reform is on long-term economic measures to reform our country's economic structure. So during this short-term economic measures, MIDA is heavily involved. Our organization is heavily involved in providing inputs to the government. Yeah? We report to the Ministry of Finance for these short-term economic measures. Yeah? And among the bold measures that we agreed by the government for us to undertake is, number one is the tax incentive for companies to relocate to Malaysia. Yeah, whereby if they invest between 300 to 500 million ringgit, which is equivalent to, I think, 100 to 200 million US dollar, they can be eligible for 10 years tax free. Yeah? Or if they are investing more than 500 million ringgit, which is about I think 200 plus million USD, they can be considered for 15 years tax free, yeah, for whatever profit that they make for the operation in Malaysia. Yeah? And also the approval that we give for manufacturing license, it can be done in 2 days, and this is done online. I didn't mention that apart from just promoting investment into Malaysia, we are also evaluating projects, investment projects. Yeah? MIDA not just promote, but also evaluate application for manufacturing licenses and also tax incentives. Yeah? The other one is the establishment of project acceleration and coordination unit, in short PACU, in MIDA, to speed up the implementation of investment projects in Malaysia. Yeah? We have this role in MIDA as well, where after we evaluate and approve the projects, then we handhold the companies to invest in Malaysia. We also communicate with our other stakeholders at the state and local authorities level. Yeah. Earlier I mentioned that we only have 20 overseas offices. We also have the offices at the state level. In Malaysia, we have 13 states. Yeah, so we have 12 state offices. The main task of these offices are to handhold investors who like to invest in these states. Yeah, so it means that in Malaysia we have 3 levels of approvals that you need to, the companies who are keen to invest need to get from these 3 levels of government. One is federal, which is coordinated by MIDA at our headquarters level. Number 2 is the approvals or permits that they need to get from the state where they want to invest in. That is also coordinated by us at the state level and also at the local authority levels. Yeah, whereby some licenses or approvals that need to be obtained from these local authorities. Because of this structure that we have in Malaysia, MIDA is the agency that investor normally will approach for them to get these approvals at these 3 levels. Yeah. So we still have the other 2 measures that have not been announced by the government. I believe by end of this year there will be another announcement that will be made by the government, and for long term it will take another year or so. So that is from me as for the question number 1. Dr. Tariq?
Yes, yeah, thank you very much. Good to know that. Now I like to request from UAE, Mr. Rami. Are you there?
Back on again. Got disconnected.
Yeah. Okay, that's
just
fine.
In time.
Okay, good. Yeah, let me ask you the same question. That what are the measures taken so far from your authority or your country on the current economy conditions? Please, Mr. Rami.
Well, like many other countries, I think most of my colleagues spoke about what they're doing. There have been many incentives and economic stimulus that has been issued in general from the federal government in the UAE to help investors, to help citizens, to help residents, to help businesses, all with counteracting the downfall in the economy, as well as obviously cash flows and lockdowns affected a lot of the business. So many stimulus plans were issued on a federal level in the UAE. Many assistances such as residence visas, delaying payments, delaying fees, subsidies on deferred payments. But I think more so I'd like to speak about what maybe our authority has done with a group of in Ras Al Khaimah, where it comes to over 15,000 investors that we have in our zones. And other than the health and safety measures that we've taken, which many countries have been doing in terms of how to counteract the COVID-19, the social distancing, the lockdowns, the use of masks, but more so on the economy, what we've done is we've introduced client support boosters. And these boosters have been packaged incentives for and tiering it for whether you're an SME or whether you're an industrial client. Our entity alone and our authority has put in boosters equivalent to 50 million dirhams support fund, which encourages the businesses to continue and sustain their businesses. We've launched special promotions. We've taken measures to give incentives on renewals, reduce discounts. We've also introduced new packages into the economy, into the market for people who have want to downsize their business due to the shortage of cash flow. We've introduced, obviously looked at many other businesses. E-commerce is taken up all over the world. So we've introduced to support packages for the e-commerce activities that are out there. So I think, as with my colleagues on the panel, the government of the UAE has taken many support stimulus packages to encourage businesses. We've looked at it in terms of supporting our clients because of the reduced cash flow, and supporting them in looking at every single case in detail, and then working, because three things we pride ourselves on in Ras Al Khaimah is the ease of doing business, the transparency, and the customized approach to our investors. We don't look at it as a one-size-fits-all. We don't look at it as packages, but we work with each investor to see what works for them, and we structure an incentive and a stimulus package so that they're comfortable and we're comfortable with it as well.
Good. Thank you very much. I know UAE is one of the safest country, and they have taken a lot of measures, from day one, and that's why we all feel very safe here. And Ras Al Khaimah definitely did their part and keeping all the businesses intact and give them full support.
I think now the good thing is, like many other countries, just to add on, in the UAE, I mean, a lot of countries are doing all of these measures, but the beauty of it here is that the government, our leadership, the government all over the UAE is quick to act. I think there's full support from the citizens and the residents to abide by these regulations and take it really at heart and really work with the government, work with our leaders to make sure that we implement it. Every single one of us is doing their part to make sure that everybody's safe.
I think you mentioned a very key point, that is the responsibility. Government definitely have the responsibility, but it's all individual citizens and business people, individuals have a big responsibility to comply and follow the rules, because that's how the whole accommodation and safety will come. Thank you very much, Mr. Rami. Now I will move into the second question, and I will ask Mr. Daud to answer the first. The second question is that, can you share some insight of a stimulus plan from your authority or your country in Pakistan? Please, Mr.
Daud. The history of mankind since the start of the banking system if you look at it in a larger perspective, you would see that the first thing that comes to anybody's mind or any government's mind are the stimulus packages. And this is true for a developed country, and also similarly equally important for a less developed country like Pakistan. So immediately after we were hit by a pandemic, as I said earlier, in March, by April, our central government with the state bank was able to dish out the initial stimulus package, and that was a two-pronged strategy, and later turned into a three-pronged strategy. And the underpinning fact behind that was that people should not be they should not be laid off, and jobs should remain intact as much as possible, and that largely was addressed toward SME sector, because naturally the SME sector was hit in a way that the government had to come in and support them. Similarly, the government looked into the large, small manufacturing, and also in few cases large manufacturing, in terms of providing them a package, starting with the construction sector as a pillar industry, because it involves a lot of job creation. It also, per se, within the construction sector, we have about 8 to about 10 other feeding industries supporting the construction sector. So the government was able to give a stimulus package in the construction sector. Similar, as I said earlier, also, the pharma industry and also the agri and food product industry was provided the kind of support from our central bank, where the impact was less. Naturally, the world over, food and pharma industry was not hit as bad as the other industries were. Last, what our central bank did was to reduce the interest rate, and this was also done incrementally, not in a one go, like perhaps in some other countries. And now our interest rate are around 7, and that too would figure out on different industries that we work on. So all in all, I think we were able to provide the right kind of support to the SME sector and also the cottage industry, because largely, especially for a province like Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, we deal mostly with SMEs and also with cottage industries. One point that I would just like to highlight, and as a plus from COVID, is that because I deal with the e-commerce part of the trade and commerce activities, and I'm happy to report that I see a lot of female entrepreneurs, especially if you keep in mind the background that we have in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. With that in mind, I see a lot of young female entrepreneurs now entering the e-commerce market, especially in healthcare sector, also in other say services sector, and that perhaps is really encouraging for me personally. The worrying part for me right now is the tourism sector, because the province is major portion of our economy is on the tourism sector, which perhaps would take another 2 to 3 months to settle down. But again, the positive is that since we do not deal with too many foreign tourists, like perhaps our friends from other panelists like Malaysia and also UAE, our major tourism sector is driven by middle income and middle class, which in a pre-COVID time there was a surge in middle class. Their economic conditions were getting better, so our tourism was getting better accordingly. But now with COVID, I think this would also slow down. So in a post-COVID scenario, I think we have the resilience, our tourism sector especially, and also the potential to jumpstart the activity, and then perhaps in a later stage, say perhaps in 2021, also attract foreign investment when inshallah everything goes well. So this is all in a larger prism that we are doing. But we have to be cautious at this stage, We are regulating our SOPs. We are looking at each day as a new case scenario, and perhaps if things go in the way that are being predicted, perhaps around September, we should be able to be in a condition where economic activities would again jumpstart. Thank you.
I see. Well, thank you. That's good to know that women are coming forward, and like you mentioned in Pakistan, and I'm very glad to hear that. Because I represent United Nations Women Empowerment Initiative. And I'm a representative here, and that's good to know that in the region that things are women are playing an additional role in their responsibility. Now, I like to ask the same question with Mr. Rami. The question is that can you share some insight of stimulus plan for your authority and country, that what UE or your authority is doing?
So the general consensus by Iraq is really to make the life of our customers a lot easier. Everybody now during this COVID and during a crisis wants things to become easier. And also due to lockdown, due to restriction on movement, social distancing, many of the things that we've done are really implementing changing our processes so that our customers can deal with us at a distance. There's no physical presence required. We've been doing our digital transformation journey for the last 2 years. And luckily, when it came to testing it during this remote working, we found out that it really works and it works well. We've removed a lot of the legislative requirements when you set up a company, such as original documents that need to be scanned or need to be attested and notarized. So now we have an electronic signature process that's acceptable all over the UAE. And so everything is more digitized. We've enhanced the usage of online service requests through our portals. And as I mentioned earlier on, we've introduced a 50 million dirham stimulus to help our clients with reduced rates, discounts, deferred payments. We have obviously a variety of customers who, as you rightly said, the people in hospitality. The hospitality business has not been doing very well, so we've had to support our hotels. We've had to support many of the hospitality consultants with a stimulus package such as deferred payments or reduced rental packages and reduction in their license fees and in their visa fees. We've also during this time seen, however, that there's a lot of new business opportunities, new businesses that don't want to have all of their eggs in one basket. They want to diversify. They want to be located in different areas around the world. Now with the geopolitical situation with China and many discussions happening of where businesses should be moving back to Europe or being in other parts of the world, we're always looking at the UAE and Ras Al Khaimah as being a hub for trade between East and West. So a lot of the businesses are looking at relocating. So we've looked at new businesses such as PPE, e-commerce, critical care, pharma, that is up and running, and we've created and unveiled a make, manage, and move ecosystem in Ras Al Khaimah so that people can make things in Ras Al Khaimah, people can manage things out of Ras Al Khaimah, such as supply chain and other industry, and people can move things effectively in and out of the United Arab Emirates for trade. So we call it make, manage, and move your products and through our ecosystem here in Ras Al Khaimah. So these are many of the things that we've introduced to our customers. We have dedicated teams that are looking, as I said earlier on, customizing packages. But we've done incentives for the new businesses that you said, what's going to be the new norm? PPE, medical care, lifestyle, remote working, e-commerce, e-learning. We have a very big academic zone. So we've introduced new licensing activities. And we have been one of the first economic zones to reduce to introduce a women's entrepreneur package last year that is the strongest in the UAE, where we encourage entrepreneurs, startups, and women to set up their businesses. And I agree with you, Doctor. As you mentioned, we see a very big uptake in women entrepreneurs setting up and managing their own businesses. So we introduced specialized package and ecosystem for women entrepreneurs during this COVID time to start up their package, their company in a very small manner if they want to, and then they can build it up as they grow. So these are some of the stimulus packages that we've been doing very successfully here out of Ras Al Khaimah. Our women package lately has brought maybe 1,000 new entrepreneurs and who own their business, who women are either single proprietorships or shareholding. And we also deal with the banks. We also deal with other service providers to give them incentives, to help them set up, to give them financial packages, to give them easy bank opening. So we've seen a big uptake on that as well.
Thank you very much. You rightly said, I think the UAE is a very central point. It's kind of hub to Africa, to Middle East, to the whole region and beyond. And I think, having a presence in UAE or Ras Al Khaimah gives a lot of variety of communication from sea, air, or anyway by road. So I think the strategic location is very important where your presence is. And your point on women, I strongly believe. I think the woman is any country. I think more than 50% of our women, every country, and you cannot ignore or you have to have a fair share in your economy and everything else. And I want to share something that I always say, that woman word, W-O-M-E-N, what initial means woman, W means well-organized men. So I think the women are more responsible and more focused than men. Nothing personal, but this is my opinion is, Yeah, but thank you very much.
I think it's not only introducing a package where women entrepreneurs can set up. It's building an ecosystem. A package is a package. You can get it anywhere. But what kind of support services and ecosystem do you build that will support these entrepreneurs to develop their business? It's the connectivity with the banks. It's the connectivity to availability of finance. It's the connectivity to certain incentives and privileges that we only give to those entrepreneurs to make sure that they have the right ecosystem to work out of.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Rami. Now I'd like to ask the same question to Mr. Rahim, that can you share some insight of stimulus plan from your authority or your country, Mr. Rahim?
Thanks so much, Dr. Tarek. As in my first speech, as I mentioned, the government immediately announced around $30 billion stimulus package. It is including credit support, labor support, and also tax relief, and also social supports. Government is announced immediately, and step by step I explained what is meaning credit support, labor support, and other ones. By doing that one, all the government authorities work together. Yeah, central bank, banking regulatory authority, and capital market authority. All of them has played role all together and to handle those problems. What central bank is done actually during that term? Central bank is lower the interest rates for the low interest rates, and central bank is made monetary expansion by means of government banks, by means of treasury. Monetary expansion they did. Banking regulatory authority also is extended the loans for companies and for the individuals, and for the capital market authority what they did, and they close, for example, short sellings, for example, because of the preventing the volatility in the market, and also extra limits they announced for the margin trading during that term. Government has took those measures, that stimulus package, to relieve the market. But what the Turkish government succeed during that term, you can announce stimulus package, you can touch the people, you can do some actions, but the government is succeed the openness to the market, to the society. I think the success of the Turkish government is lying in that one. And every day, continuously, they report to the people, they report to companies, they made the transparency, then they made explanations. This strong side of the Turkish economy, actually, there is a local market. Local market is work together with that stimulus packages, actually. And yes, they have affected, but together with that one, they still became live in the market. And the support, the positive side of the Turkish stimulus package is another side is healthcare system. Healthcare system, especially in city hospitals, is helping to health of the people to not having any problems in the health system. Mainly, the main package was that one.
I see. All right. Okay. So I think Turkey have done a lot, in their own way of in this facing this current situation. Now I want to ask the same question with Mr. Ibrahim from Malaysia. That can you share some insight of stimulus plan from your authority or your country? What are the steps have been taken in Malaysia? Can you turn the audio on, please?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Please.
Thank you, Rotary. Yeah. Okay. Let me share a bit more detail on the stimulus economic package that I mentioned earlier in the first question. My response to the first questions. Basically, the 58 billion economic stimulus package that we announced earlier in the first quarter or second quarter of this year is basically the components. There are four components. One is to protect welfare of Malaysians, where the amount of the money allocated for this is about 128 billion ringgit Malaysia, or is about 30.5 billion US dollars. Yeah. Number two is the support corporation and SMEs. That is about 100 billion ringgit Malaysia, or it's about 24 billion USD. Strengthen economy, about 2 billion ringgit Malaysia. And the last one is previous fiscal stimulus, which is about 20 billion. So what are those that we have announced for the people? One is the cash handouts. Cash handouts, we've given to household income as well as single individuals. Of course, there are minimum threshold for that, so that only those eligible can apply for this. Yeah. Then the next one is the allowance for medical frontliners. Yeah. Which is about ringgit Malaysia 600 per month for medical frontliners, and then allowance for enforcement and security personnel. Yeah, that is from 1st April 2020 to end of COVID-19, and then 15% to 50% discount within electricity bills subject to usage for affected businesses, and 2% for household for 6 months from 1st April 2020. 500 ringgit one-off aid for government pensioners and civil servants of certain grades and so on. Yeah, insurance premium payment will be deferred for 3 months. Study loans also can be deferred for 6 months. Next, I think I'll just go for the support given to the SMEs. One is the additional 1 billion ringgit to 6.8 billion. Because earlier we announced that 6.8 billion, and with the government decided to top up another 1 billion for SMEs to provide access to liquidity. So the SMEs are the one who are impacted heavily. So the government decided to, provide more support for them to have access to their liquidity. Yeah? And 3 months tech installment payment deferment. The other one is 300,000 ringgit funding given to SMEs below 4 years history. So these are the new businesses of SMEs that must be supported. This is including the women businesses, our businesses that are what do you call that, run by by women entrepreneurs. Yeah? Addition 500 million into microcredit scheme. Again, those very small enterprises. We also provide this kind of supports. Yeah? And 50 billion of guarantee scheme for all sectors affected by COVID-19. Each business may obtain 80% working capital loans up to 20 million. This is in ringgit, from 1st May until 31st December 2020, until the guarantee scheme is fully utilized. So there's a lot of support given by the Malaysian government to ensure that people, businesses, be it the micro enterprises, SMEs, even conglomerates in Malaysia are well supported, and are not badly impacted by this COVID-19 pandemic. So other than that, as I mentioned earlier, we also have these short-term economic measures. Again, that measures, I just would like to highlight some of the support for businesses that we have announced, as I mentioned earlier. That tax incentive for companies planning to relocate their businesses, from elsewhere to Malaysia, basically for them to have, the issue of disruption in their supply chain. So now the issue of them to make their supply chain networks more resilient. So they might want to have, alternative sites. So for have these resilient or more resilient supply chain networks, we would like to offer them to choose Malaysia as a place for them to, at least for the region, Malaysia is a place for them, to build their resilient supply chain networks. And other than that, for existing companies that have been operating in Malaysia, we also provide, tax exemption as well for their future investments in Malaysia. So I think that's all from me for the second question.
Okay, thank you very much. I know I've been involved with different provinces of Malaysia for a long time, and working with MIDA and promoting Malaysia and all over the world. I know Malaysia have a lot of good options and different industries, and they're very focused and very good environment for the region. Definitely. And I had the honor of meeting your Prime Minister, two different ministers, and I see very creative ideas that Malaysians community or the authorities come into international business community. Now I will move into the next question that I will ask first Mr. Rami to answer this. That can you share the industries or sections for CEO Club members and other investors to invest during and post coronavirus conditions?
I think as a lot of we've been talking about, I see a lot of emerging new industries. Obviously, when it comes to the entrepreneurs looking at and freelancers industry stepping up, where you're getting a lot of subject matter experts in many industries who probably even lost their jobs, or probably they are setting up their own businesses to be subject matter experts in many fields and offering their services as freelancers to the business community, whether they are accountants, whether they're marketing professionals, whether they are strategists. So you see a lot of that emerging. So I see the freelance and the outsource platform, where it's going to make it very easy and accessible through remote working to be able to tap into talent globally. But and I think many corporations will start to use these freelancers and subject matter experts from all over the world without the need for them to be on their overheads or them to be present in their businesses. So I'll think that the outsource and freelance industry will start to increase, and we see a lot more registration of freelance and subject matter experts setting up their freelance companies. Obviously, we spoke about e-commerce. So with the current global situation, where we're seeing a lot of transactions being done online, the trend has been to where we've seen a steady boom in e-commerce globally. We've received a 91% increase in e-commerce registration in the first half of 2020 compared to 2019. So that tells you a lot of e-commerce businesses are being set up, whether it's trading, whether it's in the food business, whether it's in the lifestyle, whether it's in PPE or healthcare. A lot more people are buying stuff online, as you know. Another industry that we've been seeing a great increase in is e-learning. You know, with schools out and many parents having their children at home, the need for private tutoring, the need for e-learning is on demand. But it's not only the tutorers or the teachers, but it's the software developers, it's the e-learning platforms that are starting to come up, the developers. So we see a lot of people coming into e-learning and a high demand in that whole value chain. The job market is more competitive. Professionals are looking to upskill themselves right now. So there's a lot more on the online courses, and e-learning obviously offers that flexibility to learning at one's own pace and increase your skills and be ready for the new norm, as they're saying. The rise of Generation X is another factor. They are more engaged with e-learning versus face-to-face education. So I think this is here to stay for some time. Obviously, F&B restaurants have closed, but there's a lot of food delivery, and there's a lot of, we see a lot of people looking more into the healthy food alternatives. So they're cooking in centralized kitchens and they're delivering. So I guess that's part of e-commerce as well, but it's in the F&B. And obviously, pharma and health, critical care, PPE and pharma is on the rise as well. These are things that I'm seeing in the first half of 2020, where we're getting a lot more requests, a lot more movement all over the world, and a lot more people setting up in Ras Al Khaimah to do this and using Ras Al Khaimah as a hub.
Okay, no, thank you very much. I know Ras Al Khaimah have, I mean, all the options and all the good packages, and because for the manufacturing, for distribution, to we like to say consultancy, to e-commerce and everything. I think you provide a very good environment and very different package that fits to all the industries and all the budgets and everything. That's a good thing about that Ras Al Khaimah is that is a very good environment and every budget and is one window operation. And I think definitely healthcare plays a key role, I think, for a long time now. So I think people are focusing more on healthcare related services or product, and I think that's a service. And you mentioned the education and e-learning and everything. I think education and healthcare are very important. They should run like a profession, not like a business that much, and that will provide more good service to the community and everything else, you know. So let me ask the same question. I think Mr. Daud, can you hear me, Mr. Daud? Yeah. I think he have a maybe. Mr. Daud, can you hear me? Yeah. Hello, Mr. Daud, can you hear me? No. Okay, I will ask the same question to Mr. Rahim now. That can you share the industry?
Dr. Saab, I think we have some.
Yes, can you hear me, Mr. Daud? Yeah, or you have a sound issue, audio issue? I know you're moving. Okay, I will ask the same question to Mr. Rahim first. That
Yes.
Can you share the industries or sections for CEO Club members and other investors during this post-coronavirus conditions? Yeah.
Yes, after post-corona, we highlight the first, and we are focusing on the technology sector, especially in divisions of the technology sector. E-mobility is important. We are giving importance. Gaming sector, especially in Turkey, is so much important. E-commerce is another area that we highlighted. Education and healthcare appliance application is so much important. We designed, especially we give the importance for these sectors. I will give you one example. In the COVID session, in the COVID term, there was one Turkish company, Peak. This is a gaming company in Turkey. It is bought by the Zynga group, and it is $1.8 billion deal. Turkey is proving its technology companies, how they are making exit, how they are becoming successful. This is a good example. Also in the COVID term, another company, PayGuru, is a payment company. They made the exit and another company has bought them. Atarlab is another cyber security company. They made the exit and also one British company has bought them. And Natro is a web hosting company. We saw that when in the COVID term also, in those terms, they succeed to that one. It is showing that Turkish startup environment and Turkish technology environment quite successful, and they are able to make exiting also. We are seeing the opportunities, especially in technology sector, in technology area. The another area, the strongest side of the Turkey is the automotive sector. As maybe you know, Turkey is trying to make their first electrical cars, and we are nearly finalizing to that one. This is a very important step for us. But Turkey also in the same time is making for other brands in Turkey, and is supplying to the Europe. From that perspective, spare part of the automotive sector is quite strong. This is another area that investor could be focused on that one, and this is giving the opportunities. The other area that we are seeing, strategic energy sector, especially renewable energy. Turkish government giving big incentives, big support for renewable energy. This is another area. Together with the renewable energy, this is the other important thing, storage of the energy. And Turkish government is focusing on that one, storage of the energy, and we are looking for the investors also in that area. We are seeing the opportunities in that area. Turkey is one of the biggest importer of the chemical products. For that reason, we would like to produce chemical materials in Turkey. For that reason, we are giving the incentives for in that area. We are seeing in chemical and for petrochemical sector, we are seeing the opportunities, and we are supporting the foreign companies who is willing to make invest, who is willing to expansion in those areas. Machinery sector also is a strong side of the Turkey as it is, and after the post epidemic, actually medical equipment and medical materials and or generic medicine sector in those sectors is including giving the opportunities. We are seeing there's opportunities in that area. This is another area. And the other important sector for us, food and beverage, and also for the agriculture, because Turkey is having the inflation problem because of the food and beverage and agriculture. In those areas also we are giving incentives, and we are seeing a strategic sector to grow in the future. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. I know Turkey have a lot of good environment and a different environment, and I think definitely, like you mentioned, in the e-commerce and healthcare and energy sector, I think energy sector is very important. In any countries, that's like a backbone of everything. So I like to ask the same question with Mr. Ibrahim now about Malaysia. That can you share some industry or section for CEO Club members and other investors during this and post coronavirus? So what are the opportunities? Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Our game plan for promoting foreign direct investment into Malaysia has always been making Malaysia as a hub for R&D, hub for high-tech industries and global services. Yeah. So what is important for us is basically targeting quality investments. What do we mean by quality investment? Is that it has strong linkages to domestic industries, skill intensives, high income jobs, export oriented, capital intensive. It has to have a component of R&D and design, given high impact to our gross national income and knowledge intensive. These are some of the parameters of what we term as quality investments. So the idea of this is that we want to achieve a developed nation. I think right now we are now at 2020, year 2020. It's supposed to be this year, the original plan to achieve Malaysia to achieve developed country status by this year. But I think the government has decided to extend it to another 3 years or more, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 2023 or 2025. Yeah. So our end game of this is basically number one, to increase economic complexity. Yeah. Create high value jobs, create Malaysian conglomerate and extend domestic linkages. Develop new and existing clusters. This is important. We have, I think, many of us knows that Malaysia has some strong industry clusters. Electronics industry in Penang is regarded as one of the advanced industries in the region. Yeah? But new clusters, we would like to develop this. Yeah? And the other portion, or the other end game that we like to achieve is improving inclusivity. It means that we, in our effort to attract FDI, you want to address regional economic imbalances, yeah? And develop these undeserved regions, areas and communities. So another point that I would like to highlight is the efforts by the okay, basically the sure. That is basically embracing Industry 4.0 technologies, talking about smart manufacturing activities in Malaysia. In fact, in Malaysia, in 2018, the government launched this industry forward blueprint that is to promote smart manufacturing in Malaysia. Yeah. And then when it comes to industries that we are targeting, there's not much different when you talk about before and after COVID. What we are looking at or focusing on is basically on these 3+2 industries. The three category industries are electrical electronics, machinery equipment, as well as chemicals. These are building block industries that can spur the development of other industries in Malaysia. And of course, the two is basically the high, what we call growth industries. Number one is aerospace, and number two is medical devices. But because of COVID-19, we see surge interest in other new opportunities, I would say, which is healthcare. I think our panel colleague mentioned about PPE. Yes, we receive a lot of interest in producing PPEs in Malaysia, and of course the e-commerce as well. Yeah, a lot of activities generated, because of COVID-19 around these e-commerce businesses in Malaysia. Yeah, I think that's all from me.
No, thank you very much. And I think it was. I think we lost Mr. Daud. He had to go to meet the governor of the province. So I think he's out. But what we do now, I like to do a poll now with the participant, and let's see what participant our answers are. So the question is for the poll. The first poll is that, how long do you think the economy can recover after the COVID-19 pandemic? And your options are 1 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, 6 to 12 months, or over a year. So I request all the participants to please vote now. I'll give you like 10 seconds to vote. And we like to hear from all of them and see how they feel this thing. I see the graph is moving in different directions. I will give another few seconds to know more that how the participant feel that when this economy of their country or wherever they are that is interesting. I think the only 5% people say that is 1 to 3 months, and 11% people says 3 to 6 months, and 36% people say 6 to 12 months. And the majority, 47% or close to 50%, you can say that say that it will take over a year to recover the economy and everything. That's interesting to know. I think if you are a businessman, so you can plan according to how the other people are thinking and everything else. I think, we are going beyond, we're coming to the end of it. We have few questions from the participant, but let me just share one question from the participant, because due to the time, and this question is for Mr. Rahim from Turkey, that will Turkey achieve 2023 vision to be the 10th largest economy globally, and seem the plan is on the right track, being part of G20. So this is a question from you, from Mr. Ray.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much. Turkey is, yes, we have a 2020 of effects affecting to that one. According to PPP, 19 biggest economy in the world, and we are going on the way. But of course, maybe we will not succeed to that one because of the COVID and such kind of issues, because of the economic growth in the world, because of that one. But Turkey is updated its targets, and we will succeed to those targets in 2023. We believe to that one. Currently, according to PPP, we are number 13. We are focusing on that one. Okay.
I see. Okay, thank you very much. I think due to we have a lot of questions, from the participants, and I also had few questions for that. But due to the time, I think we cannot go over that. But I like to give 1 minute for each panelist for their closing remarks. So if I can start with Mr. Rami Jalad to give you closing remarks, please.
It's good to see what everybody is doing across the world. I think we all have a common objective and common approach. Obviously, this is that many of the slowdown in the economy started even before COVID and the crisis started. Generally, things were declining, so to speak, in many areas of the world. So I think the most important thing is to really, for any business and anybody, to be really thinking about 3 steps, which is how to really address the current situation, how to recover from the current situation, and then the next step is how to thrive in the new economy. And I think if you compartmentalize it in those 3 areas within your roadmaps or your strategy, in whatever you do, I think that should set a clear direction for the majority of small businesses to large businesses to manufacturers to find their path in navigating through this very confusing time. I think we, as rightly so, with the poll saying that this is the economy will not be a V-shaped curve, it will be maybe a very elongated U-shape. I think we have a few years to see until there's a recovery, and then who knows what's going to happen with the the world economy during that time as well. So prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Well, let's hope that we get over with all these things very soon. Now, can I request Mr. Rahim?
Yes, of course.
For your closing remarks, please.
And actually, together with the COVID, we learned something, especially not just for investors, for everybody. We took some lessons. One of them is strong governance and proactive governance, so much important. The other one, openness of the government, communication with society, transparency of the government, especially for the investors' perspective, also I am saying it is so much important. And from investor perspective, also for the country who is that you are investing, having the local market is so much important. We saw that one in that crisis. In Turkey, we saw this one. Although there was the international market was having the difficulties, but local market is supported at least some part of the economy, and economies continue to working that one. And we learned that one, human life is more important than anything. For that reason, strong healthcare sector is so much important for the countries. We learned from that one. And the other one.
Thank you, Dr. Tariq. In conclusion, I would say that
for the
yes.
last one,
Hello?
I can say
Mr. Ibrahim,
yes,
just one second. Let Mr. Rahim make a complete, and then I will ask you to do your closing remarks. Yeah, please.
Yes, I was mentioning the strong health sector is so much important. We learned to that one. The other one that we learned, diversifying supply chain, so much important, and that COVID is learned to us this one. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rahim. Now, can I ask Mr. Ibrahim for 1 minute for your closing remarks, Mr. Ibrahim, please. Go ahead.
I think the government of Malaysia during this few months of COVID-19, the government has tried our level best, to strike the balance between the safety of the people of Malaysia as well as the resumption of businesses. Yeah. So for us, as a government agency that is promoting investment into Malaysia, what is important is to restore the investors' confidence. So for that, we have done a lot of webinar series to reach out our potential investors, our existing companies, that have been operating in Malaysia, to convince them that the government is doing whatever it takes, to assist them, to ensure that their business are not impacted and that bad, and wherever possible we would like to help them. This is including the expatriates from other countries that are stuck in their home country. They couldn't come back to Malaysia to resume their work in Malaysia, where MIDA is also assisting them to provide the support letter so that they can be given the approval to enter Malaysia. So rest assured that for us, businesses, is important, and we would like as much as possible to assist them. Yeah. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim. Now we're coming to the end. I'd like to thank all the panelists from different countries, Mr. Rahim from Turkey, Mr. Rami from UAE, Mr. Ibrahim from Malaysia, Mr. Daud from Pakistan. And I'd like to thank all the panelists and especially the participants that who have taken the valuable time to being part of today's CEO Club exclusive webinar. We have to be safe wherever you are. Hope the world will come back much stronger and much peaceful place to live. And I'd like to thank again being part of the CEO Club webinar with all these government officials and panelists. And I like everybody to play safe and stay home and use our CEO Club mobile app, to stay in touch with your business community, not locally, internationally, to stay in touch. So I always say, be healthy and happy, because your health is your wealth. So thank you very much, and we will play a very short video. So I think so. I will request all the panelists to please do not leave until just mute your audio, and once the video is finished, then leave the room. But thank you again, everyone, and especially the participants and the panelists. Thank you, and I hope you had an informative webinar from CEO Club today. Thank you again.